Welcome to Locally Sourced. I'm Armanda Familetti. Tonight we're going to talk about scams that target the elderly. We're going to find out how we can protect the elderly, what we can do for ourselves and for our loved ones. And I'd like to welcome back an expert on the subject, Lisa Morris.
Hi.
Welcome, Lisa.
Thank you. Thank you for having me back.
Oh, a pleasure. You're just such a wealth of information. I can't tell you. So tell me what you do to educate people about scams against the elderly.
Well, for several years, the credit union has put together a seminar that we offer in the community that gives people information about the types of scams that are out there, the ways that our elderly friends, neighbors, and family are being taken advantage of, and what we can do to kind of see the warning signs of it and take action to help them. Because in many instances, these are people who don't have the means to help themselves.
Right. And the facts surrounding scams that target the elderly, they're such a vulnerable population.
Very, very much so.
It is amazing. And we have a slide that illustrates that.
Yeah. There's over $17 billion a year, really, in fraud committed against the elderly. From an exploitation standpoint, the total is really over $36 billion. And these are the most recent statistics I have from 2015. So each year this just grows and grows. Yes, and the reason is because thankfully more people are being made aware of these things, but they still tend to go unreported, and we'll talk about that a little bit. And there is such a vulnerable population out there, especially in the elderly community. There are over 11 million elderly that are living alone, that are not in nursing homes. Only 4% of the population that are elderly actually live in nursing homes. And so if you don't have family and friends around you the whole time, you can become very much an easy target for someone.
Wow. Is it true, I'm not even sure I have my facts right, but is it true that that's the largest growing demographic, is people over 60? All the baby boomers are sort of coming into their golden years.
Yep, I think I read on the Institute on Aging's website recently that by 2030, 20% of the American population is going to be over age 60.
Wow.
So it's growing, definitely.
Wow.
And we're living longer, which is a good thing. So we just have to take care of ourselves in more ways than one.
So this information is very important for us as we age, and also for the people around us, our children, our grandchildren, our neighbors, our friends, to kind of keep an eye on us as well. So tell me, who are these people? Who are the abusers of the elderly?
Well, unfortunately, and we don't mean to scare people with this information, but many times it's someone you know. It's someone you know and someone you trust.
It could even be a family member.
It can be a family member. It can be a very good friend. It can be someone who has legal authority for you, a professional of some kind, a financial services representative or something that you've given access to your accounts. So trust is a very big element in this, and oversight is also a very big element. You want to make sure that the people you are giving information to or allowing access to things for you are trustworthy, and that you maintain some type of control over what they're doing with your finances especially.
Do you find that as people age, they become more trusting or less trusting? Or maybe they feel more dependent or less dependent?
They certainly feel more dependent. Unfortunately, as we age, and especially as an aging population finds itself with any kind of dementia or physical disabilities, it becomes harder for us to maintain our own information ourselves. So we need to be able to find people that we absolutely trust and that we know have our best interests at heart.
We just saw a slide a moment ago, and it said power of attorney. What does that mean? That's a potential abuser?
It's a potential abuser, yes, but a power of attorney document is something that you want to think about very carefully, because it essentially will give someone the authority to act on your behalf. And that means they could go to the credit union and they could check out your accounts for you. They could talk to your doctor potentially. They could talk to other service providers that have more information on you. So in many instances, and I know, for example, my husband has a power of attorney for his mother. She'll be 90 years old soon.
Ooh,
yes,
wow,
we're having a great celebration for her. But it's easy for her in that instance because my husband's able to take care of things for her when she's either traveling or not at home or this and that. but it's also something that he has 5 brothers and sisters that are all making sure that, Philip is doing the right thing with his power of attorney and things like that. So it's very important if you're going to enter into a power of attorney situation that you speak with someone in the legal profession to make sure that you're doing it correctly and that you're choosing the right people.
Right. So let me ask you, if I have power of attorney over one of my parents, do I have some kind of a card or a letter or something that I would go to the credit union or the bank or the medical professional and say, look, I have power of attorney, so you can tell me everything.
There's
I
actually
know.
a legal document. It's
Okay.
a legal document that you need to fill out, and I believe it's notarized.
Okay.
And so I know that the credit union, we always ask for that documentation. And in some instances, depending on the business that you're working with, they may actually take a copy of it and keep it on file just so that they have it noted that you have that and you don't have to bring it in every single time.
So you brought along, thankfully, several slides of all the different kinds of scams, and I'm going to bet, even as long as this list is, that there are some that aren't on it because someone's just thinking about it now.
Yeah.
So we're going to go through those
unfortunate.
slides.
The number one slide I talk to, especially in relation to the elderly population these days, is what we call the grandparent scam. Many people will try to call you on the telephone and impersonate people. The grandparent scam is one that we've seen for a number of years now, and it's a typical, you answer the phone and you hear someone say, "Hi, Grandma." It's not using a name, it's just "Hi, Grandma." Now, if you have grandchildren, your natural thing is, "Hi," and you're trying to listen to, which grandchild it is or whatever. But in many instances, this is followed by, and maybe you'll even say, "Oh, Timmy? Oh, yeah, it's Timmy." So now you've given them a name to go with. This actually happened to my mother-in-law a few years back, and it was someone purporting to be her nephew, Kevin, and he was looking for money because he had a little fender bender in Pennsylvania and needed to pay an insurance bill and blah, blah, blah. And thankfully my mother-in-law is, I call her an old tough Irish broad, and she said, "Call your own mother to get money. I'm not going to give you any money," and she hung up. So if you think that the person you're speaking with is perhaps not who you think it is, always, and I would say especially with the grandparent thing, it's one thing to have trust between you and your grandchild. Call their parent and find out where they are and say, "Scotty just called me and said he needs bail money. What's going on?" Half the time, Scotty's in his bedroom upstairs, playing a video game or something.
And I'm sure Scotty probably said, "I can't tell Mom and Dad."
Exactly.
And that's
don't
why
tell
I'm
Mom
calling
and Dad.
you.
Right,
so
right. They'll be so upset with me. Please don't get me in trouble.
Yeah.
And those types of telephone scams are perpetrated not just with the whole grandparent scheme, but it could be someone impersonating your insurance company, or a favorite is the IRS.
Okay.
They want to call and say, "You owe us money. You have unpaid utility bills, and if you give me your credit card right now, I can wipe this off."
And jury duty. What's the jury duty scam?
Jury duty is you've missed a summons. You were supposed to report for jury duty, and now you haven't, so you actually have a fine levied against you. But if you'd like to pay the fine over the phone rather than coming in to do it,
We'll
we
take
can
your
do that.
credit card?
We'll take your credit card number. Yes, yeah.
Righty.
Many times, I can't think of a legitimate business that really will call you to ask you for your credit card to do something.
Okay.
So that's always a warning sign.
And what about the internet or things you get on the email?
Oh, the internet and email, these are wonderful sources of things. People that want to impersonate, again, something that you do business with.
So the IRS is going to email me?
No, they won't. But it's things like Apple
But
or
they
Netflix.
might pretend to email
Right,
me,
right. Like I think in Putnam County recently, there were a flood of emails saying that, "Hi, your Netflix account is unpaid," and this and that. Click here and you can pay the bill now. And so not only are you maybe paying your Netflix bill, but then you're giving your credit card number to somebody who's really not Netflix.
Right. And they can always say, I've heard this, and I think it's legitimate when I heard it, was, let's review your credit card number on file.
Yeah,
right?
they do. They do that a lot. They won't read it back to you.
Right.
They'll say, why don't you give me your credit card so I can make sure that it's the right one on file.
Right.
Yeah.
So actually the better thing to say is, why don't you read it back to me?
Yes. Or if you get an email that says to click on something or to call a phone number, the better thing to do is completely ignore the email and separately call the company on your own with a phone number that you found yourself. Don't use the one that's in the email, because often that's a fake number that goes to a series of people that are just looking to scam you out of information. And that's good for whatever age you are, really.
Right, right.
Yeah.
So I think we have a few more scams, unfortunately.
Yeah, and unfortunately, people will show up at your door, especially for those.
That's the scariest, I
Yes,
think.
you know, I'm a contractor and I was driving by and I noticed that your roof looks a little old. You know, I'd be happy to come back next week and fit you in my schedule to give you a new roof. All I need is a $200 down payment. So that seems like not a lot of money, but you hand that over, and then 2 weeks later you look at the business card that he gave you and you realize it's 845-555-5555, and it's not even a real number. And you know, we've had our own members that have come to us and told us that they've had situations where, you know, somebody offered to pave my driveway and they started the job, they cleared it out, and then they never came back. And in those instances, a lot of times we have to tell our members, you need to call the police. You need to let them know. And that's one of the biggest things about this, is that people feel embarrassed about the situations, and they don't want to report it.
How could I fall for that? It's a small amount of money. It's my punishment for you
but
know,
you
being
shouldn't be
so
punished.
stupid.
Yeah.
Right. It's no.
No, and
You have no guilt in this
That's
situation.
right.
It's all on the criminal.
That's right. That's right. If someone's going to take that much time to try and figure out how to get a small amount of money out of you, think of what they're doing to get a larger amount of money out of someone else.
Right, right.
Yeah.
And I saw on that particular slide was utilities. That's a scam as well. That
Yeah, someone will impersonate
they
a
pretend
utility.
they're from NYSEG.
Yeah,
Or
they'll pretend, and in some instances they want access to your house. And if you let them into the house,
gas leak, right?
Yeah, you know, we'll need you to wait outside while we check the gas leak, and then maybe they're going through your drawers, they're looking through your paperwork, they're trying to get personal information on you, so then they can steal your identity later on, like we discussed earlier.
So if someone from the gas company says we have a reported gas leak, we want you to leave the house, what am I supposed to say?
Don't let them in your house.
Okay, but I don't want to blow up.
No, you don't want to blow up. So if you get that information, get out of your house. But if there's someone at your door asking to inspect your home, make sure that what you're seeing there is an identification card of some kind. Even better yet, take your cell phone with you outside the house. Ask the person not to go in the house until you call that company. Make sure that it is legitimate. Did you send someone out here? I'm thinking,
I mean, because people can forge an ID.
They can, but that's why, again, having that company information to say, you know, let me call NYSEG and just verify. Sometimes even when you're standing with the person and say, that's great, why don't you wait with me out here? I'm going to call NYSEG just to confirm this. Oh, you know, let me get something out of my truck.
And they're gone.
So before you know it,
Thank
he's
God
gone.
they're gone. And then you call the police.
Yes, definitely.
Okay, more and more people have video cameras outside their doors, right? So they can see who's at their door.
Yep.
So if that's probably a good idea, right? Because
that's a great idea, especially if you're older and living home alone, to be able to see who's waiting for you at the door. And really, there's no obligation for you to answer your door. You don't have to.
Right, you don't have to.
That's right, you don't have to.
It does. I don't know too much about those, but is there a tape that goes with that? Can you then
I think
show
it depends
the police?
on the system.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it depends on the system that you get. And you might even want to ask around if you have friends in law enforcement. I'm sure that they can give you some information about the different types of cameras and what they can do and stuff.
I saw something on the news about people who had those video cameras, and they were able to see people stealing their FedEx packages off their front.
That was a big thing over the holidays. Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
So they
more
were
and more
really,
people are doing that. Yeah.
Yeah. I was like, oh, I mean, maybe you don't get your FedEx packages back, but at least you know what happened to them,
That's
and
right.
maybe the police can follow up.
You know who the Grinch is.
Yeah. So tell me something. I think we're done with our slides for the scams. So what are some of the warning signs that you or someone you love who's elderly has been scammed?
Yeah. The biggest thing is a change to any types of accounts. If you see someone who, if you're helping your mother, say, and you notice that there are large withdrawals from her accounts, if you help her with her banking, any unpaid bills, if there's notifications that NYSEG wasn't paid or things like that, or Verizon, and if there's missing property, you know, there are a multitude of wonderful caregivers in this world who really should be applauded. There are some bad apples. And if you go visit Grandma and Grandpa and you notice that her prized crystal vase that she got at her wedding 55 years ago is no longer on the shelf where it always was, you know, Grandma, what'd you do with that? Oh, you know, I gave that to Susan. She worked so hard for me. And, you know, and then it's like, what else have you given Susan? You know, and before you know it, you find that she's also giving her checks that are written out to cash and things like that. So missing property can be a warning sign that something's going on also in the household. Changes in documents. If you find that an elderly person is making a change to their will, if they're turning the property or their car over to someone else. If you're a family friend or if you're a family member yourself, and sometimes they'll just mention it to you, you know, or, oh, you know, I gave Jimmy the car. Well, what do you mean you gave Jimmy the car? Is Jimmy borrowing the car? Oh, no, I wrote it over to him. You know, I gave him the deed. Well, why did Jimmy ask you to do that? You know, and a lot of times people also are a little reluctant to ask questions because they don't want to make the person feel bad. And there may be a perfectly legitimate reason why Jimmy needed the car. But it's always better to talk about it, excuse me, and to just actually ask some questions. Because you may find that in some instances, the person is having a diminished capacity. And maybe they're not even remembering that they're giving away some of this items and stuff like that.
Right.
So asking questions can really, really be helpful.
And if I had a power of attorney, I know we spoke about that earlier, what would that enable me to do? Would I be able to rectify some of the problems, or would I be alerted if some of the deeds changed or something like that?
So I can give you a personal example.
Bills aren't being paid.
Right. So I can give you a personal example. My husband has power of attorney for my mother-in-law. As I said, she's 90. She's wonderful. And she still has it.
Right,
so,
right. Well, she's the Irish lady.
She's the Irish one, yes. So she's, and she gets her statements every month, and she looks through them, she keeps her checkbook, everything like that. But my husband has access to it also. So he will check her account statements each month, and he'll look to review to make sure that there aren't any irregularities with it and things like that. And that's really what a power of attorney can do. And so
do you have to request that, or is that automatic with having a power of attorney?
No, that's one of the powers that you can have.
Okay.
When you have a power of attorney document, your lawyer will explain to you, there's several different levels of involvement that the power of attorney can have. So for example, you may just want someone who helps you with your banking, but someone else you may list can help you with any mortgages or any property that you have. So there's different levels of care that person can help you with. So it's always important to get someone's legal advice when you're putting that together. That's really helpful. But the power of attorney is meant to be someone who can be that watchdog and who can keep that eye and ear out. And so if something were to go wrong with my mother-in-law's account, if there was something fraudulent going on, my husband does have the ability to go into the credit union and say, hey, as her power of attorney, I need to speak with someone about this and I need to help her rectify it.
Well, one thing is, and I'm not sure you mentioned it, but I'm always getting from different insurance companies and I think the electric company, do you want to have third-party notification? Do you want someone else to be in the loop about your billing cycle?
Yep.
Yes or no?
Yeah.
And how important is that? Is that a good idea?
That can be very important, and especially as we age, and if we have any kind of diminished capacity, it's very helpful to have that third party, similar to when you go to the doctor's office, and is there anyone else that we're authorized to speak with on your behalf with your health, having a healthcare proxy or things like that. It is very helpful to have that trustworthy person in that position who can give you the guidance. You know, we all want to think that we're going to age in place and we're all going to be 100%.
And we're going to keep our marbles.
And we're going to keep our marbles about us. But yeah, and you know, the sad thing is that it starts to go before you realize it. Right. And having some things in place to safeguard you is very important. And having these tough conversations.
Right. And you should probably have these tough conversations before.
Yes.
Right, where you're sure, and everyone's sure,
yes,
that your capacity is at full strength and not diminished. And and not wait until there's a crisis. But, you know, I have to say, these are difficult conversations
really
between
are.
parents and children.
They really are.
Because, you know, there might be an estate at stake, and you don't want to seem like you're protecting your own interests as a potential inheritor, but that you're protecting the interests of mom and dad while they're still with us.
Right. And I think one of the easiest conversations to open up actually is by saying, what is it that you want? We're not looking to do things with your money that we want to do. We're looking to, how do you want us to help you as you get older? Even going into, you know, when the time comes, what's your final resting place? What are we supposed to be doing for things like that?
Right.
Starting maybe that conversation, and I know so many.
Resuscitate or not resuscitate? A very big
you know,
issue.
having a healthcare proxy and things like that, and there's so many different things that are in that whole realm. And I know that we were in a situation a few years ago where we had that crisis situation. My father-in-law became ill very quickly. And we extended the conversation to include my mother-in-law to say, okay, so what are we going to do now? Now it's at the time where we have to start thinking about this. But they were in their 80s. And really, I've had that conversation with my mother. She's in her 70s. We've started to have that conversation with our children. And I'm in my 50s and my husband is in my 60s. So, you know, it's not a bad conversation to have. And the more open I think families can be with one another and honest up front, the better it is down the road also, especially when there's multiple siblings involved.
So be bold is kind of the advice, right? Risk the uncomfortable conversation.
Right. And you know, the other thing too is if you're a neighbor of someone and you see someone who you feel is perhaps being exploited in some way, you know, many counties around New York State have an Office of the Aging or even Adult Protective Services. You can make a phone call and say, you know, I'm really worried about Armanda, and here's why. Here's what I see. They can investigate without involving you in many instances and things like that. And so the key comes back to a little bit of that see something, say something. Right. You know, it's very hard for people to admit when they themselves have been scammed, because there is that sense, like you said, that, oh, I deserve my punishment, or, you know, I should have known better. Right. But the fact is, there are people out there who make a living off trying to find ways to take advantage of you. It's not your fault. And there's a multitude of help available to you. And when you do report things like this, it prevents it from happening to someone else.
Exactly. You're doing a good deed
you
by
really
reporting
are.
It for someone, because why should that happen to some other innocent person?
Exactly.
So we do have a few slides that you brought. Thank you for how we can protect ourselves and our neighbors. So we can go over those now. We just have not too much longer left, but so
one of the biggest problems for the elderly is isolation. Connecting with other people and socializing often is very, very important. I even encourage, go to your senior center, you know, go to the mall and do mall walking. Don't sit at home alone.
You know what's a great thing to do? You could come and volunteer.
There you go.
Comcast Channel 8, because we're always looking for people to come and do shows and to crew, and it's so much fun.
That's great.
It really is fun.
There you go. That's
and
perfect.
It's a great community. So that's my plug for how you can connect with your neighbors. But luckily in Putnam County, we have a lot of opportunities for seniors to connect and socialize.
That's great.
And so I didn't mean to interrupt you. We
No,
can go back
that's
to our slide now.
No, we you know, we want to make sure that people, if they choose their caregivers and advisors with as much care as possible, but then make sure that you always set some ground rules. If you have someone who comes into your home to physically take care of you, if there's certain rooms that you don't want them to go into, or there's certain things that you don't want them to do for you, make sure that you set the ground rules with those people. Always lock up any personal information if you do have people that are coming into your house to take care of you for a variety of different things, especially health care. And really, you know, don't be afraid to report people. If someone is taking advantage of you, we need to get them off the street, because it won't just be you that they take advantage of. Monitoring your accounts is very important. The third-party notification that we talked about. Keeping your receipts. This is something that, as I do my financial literacy around the county, I talk about how it drives me crazy these days. many, many young people, when they're using a credit card or a debit card, and someone says to them behind the register, would you like a receipt with that? Oh, no, that's okay. Take your receipts. Take your receipts because you want to get rid of them. Even if there's a hint of your credit card number on it, you don't want people to have that information.
Sometimes
Keep
it's
your
the last
receipts.
4 digits.
Right.
With other places are asking for your last 4 digits.
Exactly. Right? And then if they looked over your shoulder and they got the first set, you're out of luck.
They sometimes offer to email the receipt. So take that.
Sometimes they do, and you can. If you just can't stand the paper in your hand, that's good too. But monitoring your accounts, always opening your mail in a timely fashion, and don't let it pile up, as we discussed. Asking for help. It's not a sin. If you need help with things, if you feel yourself slipping in any way, reach out and find someone who can help you. And I always go back to that, phrase that my grandma always used to say, no, neither a borrower nor a lender be. And there are many instances where you might want to borrow money and stuff, but if you're elderly and you have someone who's coming to you and asking you for loans and things like that, always be careful about what it's for, how you're going to be getting the money back, and is someone else helping you with this? Do you actually have a contract with this person or something?
Right. We have another slide up, and I think you've actually gone over some of these before about keeping an eye out. Remember to report it. Please report it. Don't let it go unmentioned because it's just not fair.
No.
Don't let the criminal get away.
Exactly.
Whether you're an Irish broad or an Italian broad or any kind of person.
And you know what?
Don't let them get away.
The last thing quickly is set up a code word with your family. And have that code word be something that you all know, but if you're in a situation that you feel unsafe or that someone's taking advantage of you, use that code word. Armanda, those pretzels last week made me so thirsty.
And who do you use that code word with?
With your family members. If you
on the phone or
on the phone or in person or something like that, and have a code word that
Something's
can trigger
on.
somebody. Something's going on. I need help.
Oh, that's an excellent idea, and just one of the many that you've given us. So I'm so happy that you are here. I think that you and the Hudson Valley Federal Credit Union is doing a great service.
Thank you. We try
to our community and helping us all, and I hope that I can get you back because you have so much information.
Love to.
I'd also like to say watch the show that preceded this because that was on ID theft, and that gave a tremendous amount of information as well. And so thank you so much, Linda Morris.
Thank you,
Lisa Morris.
Yes, that's great.
Thank you, and thanks to the crew, and thanks to all the people who watch. Till next time.